about 1 more minute. Hope y'all doing well, friends. Hello, D. Butch, Biz, Adam, Infinite, Venom, Terry, KSP, Lavish, Armchair Prophet, KSP if I didn't already say that, and Shannon Jones, Conscious Soul, Chris, welcome everybody, Quietus, hello. Okay. So. Right. Oh. Sorry, I'm working with limited resources tonight. Actually, the last couple weeks. Okay. So. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Forever Conscious Research Channel. Just as a reminder before we get started, this channel is for educational purposes only, or entertainment purposes only, perhaps depending on whatever the law would prefer. So, well, got a wild one tonight. Before we even start the video, there's a little bit in the description tab, but I'll kind of give you a brief rundown. Sorry, just 1 moment here. Thought I might be having a little technical issue. 1 minute here. I'm really sorry, guys. The way I have it set up right now is just not what I'm used to. So it's usually it's bing, bang, boom. I'm all over the place and it's a lot easier to navigate. But okay, so let me just start that over. I'm going to have to redo the timestamp. So hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is for obviously the replay. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Forever Conscious Research Channel. Hope you're doing well today. So before we kind of get into this experience, I want to start it off by just letting you know that viewer discretion is advised. I have a lot of difficulty covering these types of cases. They're out there. Trust me, they're out there. And there's plenty of them, okay? They're not always available on video, because it depends. Some will come forward and talk about it, but if you dig enough, they're out there. They're on all the database websites like IANS and NDERF, and they're in books. They're out there. So, the whole thing I really think that needs to be said, I know I've mentioned it many times, is that those who have a negative NDE, hellish NDE, however you want to classify it, they are severely underreported. And not just underreported, but not even recognized by the big organizations. And yeah, I'm talking to IANS and I'm talking to NDERF. For as much good information and research that kind of comes out of them, and and who they do put on their platform, information wise, there is a lot of good stuff, right? But in the same breath, I think, we're talking about the leading organizations in the world. seem to be ignoring the hellish NDEs. So I think it's a disservice to them. And Alicia is a great example of this. And I think really they would prefer to throw all these under the rug and not talk about them. I do got to give Peggy from NDE TV a lot of credit for having Alicia on. I think it was a very, very great thing for her to do, to give Alicia this chance to share her story. And Alicia's entire life script is absolutely heartbreaking. It's crushing. All right. She was severely abused from a very young age by her family. And obviously, as she puts it, her own words, she says she was born a slave. I mean, really, really riveting things come out of her mouth. And I know many of us listening here today will absolutely relate with the way she comes across. And Alicia, if you do happen to ever run across this video, you got an open invitation if you'd like to come on. I think Alicia could be someone who may be able to, consider the soul trap. I really do. And you're going to see why. But anyways, she ends up, she's with a boyfriend. Now, mind you, I think she said she's about 5 feet tall. And the boyfriend is 6'4", drags her by her hair and stabs her in the back. Okay. Ends up getting an infection. The paramedics and police thought for sure that she was going to end up dying. But she ended up being carted away through EMT. And so, anyways, she is put into a coma. Now, one of the things with these coma NDEs is they are usually a lot more intense. And if they're negative, they're off the charts. Off the charts. And Alicia experienced that. So not only did Alicia have a horrid life script that when coming to Earth, right? And that she lived out and is living out, but she even has an NDE that is negative. And so I guess you got to ask the question, for someone to endure such abuse, why, why don't they roll out the red carpet and give her the love and light experience? It's amazing. It really is amazing. But anyways, I'm not going to ramble on too much. I just want to give you kind of like a little brief introduction to all this. I'm going to have a lot to say. We're probably going to be here a while tonight. This is just one of those cases. Before we get in, I just want to thank UWU for your very kind super chat. Thanks so much. Says, thank you for all you do. All the best. Thank you. I appreciate that. All the best to you as well, my friend. Okay. All right. So here we go. Buckle up, my friends. And again, last chance, viewer discretion advised. If you're not doing well, not in the right state of mind, just having a rough day, rough week, rough month, skip this one, right? Don't wallow in it. It's going to be a tough one. All right, here we go.
Hi, welcome to NDE TV. I'm Peggy Robinson. Today's guest is Alicia, and she is new at telling her story. And so it is going to be great because this is the kind I love. I call them NDE newbies. Like, you just are getting out there and getting used to sharing your story. So I'm going to let you take the floor and you just go with it. And then when I have questions, I'll be back. Okay.
All right. Yeah. Feel free to take the wheel, but I will just, start driving. Anyway, so I'm an NDE. My experience happened in 2002, and it was 2 weeks after my 22nd birthday. So it was like the last day of the month, and I was had gone through a breakup with my ex, and he was in a bad place, and I had gone for a visit, and apparently he had just made up his mind that he was going to resolve our issues one way or the other. And I ended up getting a dagger in the back. I was stabbed once in the back, but it hit my left kidneys, my stomach, and my intestines because the blade was so long. And so, you know, anyone, you know, that's the sweet zone. You usually don't come back from kidney shots, let alone you get bacteria of intestines in there. And anyway, so I had a real slim chance to live. They gave me a 2% chance to even be able to pull through.
And what
And
chance?
so 2%. 2% chance. They said people are coming to say goodbye, that there's just no way. Because I had bled to death, you know. And he didn't call the police. It took me a while to have someone come find me. So it's definitely a miracle, for one. And definitely I would say by God. I did go to hell, or what people would call distressing NDE, which does directly reflect the complications, the hard life that I've had. You know, I hear a lot of people talk about abuse, and that definitely and negative NDE will reflect hardships that we've gone through. So,
Okay, so clearly, you know, you can tell she has done her homework since getting back. She knows how it reflects, right? Oh, sorry. Stupid mic. Anyways, as I was saying, she's very familiar with what is going on and how NDEs and belief are a reflection of belief systems as one goes through it. So all the leading researchers agree with that. So important to keep that in mind. She's definitely done her homework.
my life before my NDE was extremely difficult and stressful and hard. My whole life as a child growing up, it was just everything was hard. And then I had my NDE, so I felt that my negative NDE just was a way for it to be expressed, because I didn't know what love was ever, not real love. You get that from God, and then you're able to share it because, oh, wow, this is unconditional love. This is great. Anyway, so I felt that the reflection of my negative NDE was just a way for me to express without words, you know, in action form, because I fought a demon in hell, which also reflects how I am in life. I never stop fighting. I always keep getting back up every time I fall down. Some people like to be victims or call themselves victims. And we do have to get out of that point because, yeah, I was a victim. We have to acknowledge that. So anyway, I felt my ND was a representation of me acknowledging my victimization and really just be able to go from there, because I was saved from hell. And we do have to be saved from hell. When we're stuck in hell, we need a hand out. So anyway, back in 2002, I go to try and do like reconciliation or whatever. You know, I've always had unconditional love. And if someone's a very negative or hateful person, to me, that's just like, well, some flowers are purple and some flowers are red, you know? So to me, that wasn't a sign for danger. It was just, wow, this guy's being very expressive about how he feels. And yeah, it's rage, it's anger, it's the other spectrum.
I think when we grow up abused, we get used to that's our normal. And so the red flags may not go up because that's a normal.
Yeah, and everyone gets angry and we're not allowed to acknowledge anger. It's not allowed. We, as children, have tantrums. And as an adult, you have a tantrum and there's huge repercussions from that. However, there's still rage, and he was suffering from rage and so was I. It was an abusive relationship anyway. But anyway, I ended up getting stabbed in the back with a dagger, and I was saved in all ways. My body and my mind and my soul from different aspects. So anyway, I'll just jump into my NDE now, and I have a little backstory. I was stabbed, and I never floated above my body. I was aware that I was hurt and needed help, and I told God the second it happened, I realized, oh dear God, he stabbed me. Please send help. Please help me. Please save me. And he did. It took a long time, but he did. So,
Okay, so God sent help. Now, I feel so bad for Alicia, right? Falling back on the whole God thing. She asked for help, and wait till you see how things roll out with the family and everything. But as a result, the NDE you're going to hear is appalling. So if God is providing that, and of course, what Alicia had to experience already in life, well, the questioning has to begin somewhere. What is this God? Who is this God? It certainly seems to be an absentee God and just not care about the pain and suffering and atrocities that are going on here. Not just to Alicia, but many around the entire realm.
I wrote all this down because I get lost in my story, but
Do you want me to help you? Like, when he stabbed you, what did you feel?
actually it didn't hurt at all. Death is so easy. I wasn't, tortured to death. I just bled to death, and it didn't hurt. It just felt really hot, and like someone turned on the water faucet, and that's all my blood just came out of me, and it was hot. And then I blacked out, and I would come to, he put me in the tub. He took my clothes off. He cleansed me. He did put the dagger up under my chin, in fact, telling me, don't die. He didn't want to kill me. Otherwise, he could have kept stabbing me. He didn't want to go to jail either, because he called his brother, and he said, hey man, come help me out here. I shanked this,
Was you awake for that when he called his brother?
Yeah, I had consciousness of that, or maybe I was aware in a different sense. And so I was out of it for that. I heard on later when, I survived, that his brother called his sister, and his sister called his mom, and his mom said, somebody called the police. This is not happening.
Good for her.
Mom coming through.
I know. She saved my life. Well, everyone saved my life, really. So his sister called the police, and the police showed up at her house, and she lived across the way.
Oh.
And so they made it to where our old apartment.
You got to wonder if the police showed up at the sister's house. Maybe he's, assaulted the sister before or something. Maybe they've been there before. Or it could just be because the mother lives with the sister. I don't know.
Finally, and he wouldn't open the door. He barricaded us in. And his older brother is about 20-something years older than him, in the family, kicked the door down because the police were at a standoff. But the brother just went in and kicked the door down, and the police were able to go in, and they detained him and found me wrapped up in a blanket, like, the garbage.
Were you in the bathtub still?
No, he had taken me out, and I was in the hallway. So a police officer came up to me and had shook me, and that hurt. Oh, don't touch me, I'm dying.
Oh.
And I opened one eye, and I read this in the police report, that the police officer shook me, and I opened one eye, and he said, who did this to you? And I told him his name, who did it to me. And he said, well, where is he? And I said, he's the man you have in cuffs. Like, you guys got him, what? Anyway, so then I went out again, and then I came to, I was in the ambulance, and the paramedics had got me on the stretcher, and I was in the ambulance, but I couldn't see, everything was black. And these two guys were over me, and I guess we were going at that point. We're just talking, having a conversation about whatever it was that they were talking about before they got my call. And it was a massive crime scene at the apartments too. I mean, they had CSI out there. It was, there's no way I was going to live. So I was just pronounced dead, like, oh, this is going to be murder. You know, anyway, they classified my case murder, and I had to go back and let them know I lived. So these guys were talking amongst themselves, and I was really turned off about that they just could, you know, continue on a conversation while I'm laying here dying.
Right.
Like, okay, well, if you don't want to talk to me, I don't want to talk to you. I'm out of here. And so I heard at that point her pressure is dropping. And then that's when I went into my NDE. And so it was slow going in because there's a lot of darkness. It was just black. And I remember being in the hospital, like that's where it started. I was in a bed, and it was always a dark room. Like there's just no lights. You can have some vision, but it was real low quality. And so I'm laying in bed, unable to move. And I can hear the hospital, like I can hear people walking by my room, and I can feel presences like of, I don't know if people are, I felt like dark presence, but they were just walking and just being, and I was just waiting. Like at that point, I did have issue with time because it felt like forever, but you know, when someone walks by, it's not forever. But my time interpretation had just switched over. And so it took a long time to feel all this. Anyway, I did hear the door open a couple times in my room, in my dark room, where I was just my bed, no lights, no beeps, no anything, you know, very old
So
fashioned.
you were actually physically in the hall, but in this dark place, you were in a bed?
In the hall, you mean like after I got stabbed?
Yeah.
No, at this point, I was in the EMT
Oh, I'm sorry.
ambulance.
Okay.
And so they had said, oh, well, you know, I said, I'm out of
Gotcha.
here.
I'm sorry. Uh-huh.
And that's when I felt the darkness. But I missed out the ride to the hospital. I just ended up in a bed in the hospital at that point. That was my way of saying, okay, well, I'm being saved. You know, I'm laying here. I'm not dead yet. No one's working on me either. It's just dark and I'm waiting. I can hear things and feel things in my bed. So the door had opened a couple times, and that's when I could feel dark energy or these dark presence. And there was two of them. And as the time passed, the feeling of their presence, actually, they did get darker, and I could see a darkness and then a darkness, and then I could make out clear that they were actually people. There's two guys in my room. One of them didn't have a shirt on, and he had long hair, and he was white, skinny. And the other guy kind of had a, you know, regular shirt or whatever. He was normal, and he was just over in the corners walking across the walls and just staying around, being active and just moving around. But it seemed to me like he was the guy's buddy. You know, they always travel in twos. And so anyway, the guy who didn't have a shirt on, he had sat next to my bed, and it wasn't.
Now, make no doubt about it, my friends. What we're seeing here is a loosh party that's about to begin. No doubt in my mind. Something you can see with there could be, I guess you can call it like orb or spirit activity that can occur around a violent or anger fueled situation, right? It could even be something, you know, like a car accident, could be a heated argument, things like that. These energy beings, and most of the time they're in the form of orbs, can be seen. And something like I'll just put out there, you know, if you start looking for this stuff, you'll see it more and more. It's out there. If you start watching videos of heated situations that, and especially like if there's violence or real bad arguing involved, you will see that something like orb activity is more likely to occur. And in my opinion, that's just the entities that feast off of our energy. And what we have here are two beings, like, hanging out, checking things out, and then she's, of course, about to be thrown into this coma hell, or is already at the beginning of it. Let's say that.
Anything weird about that. It wasn't like he was trying to comfort me or say anything. He was just there. And I could, I was just there. At some point in this time, he had stretched his hand out to me to offer me a cigarette, and it was a lit cigarette. And the cigarette was sitting in his fingers like this, sitting up, and the smoke was coming up, and he's offering me a cigarette, but it wasn't a hand. It was actual metal claws, and the cigarette was in between the claws. So it was really scary because it was really sharp.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you know what? I can use the cigarette too at this point. So I actually grabbed the cigarette from him. I was afraid, but I still did. And I'm smoking the cigarette in the hospital in my bed and wondering, where am I supposed to ash this and put this out? Like, I don't know. But I really enjoyed that cigarette. And at this point, he had got up and started walking around. And I became, I guess, like imprisoned, I guess. I mean, I was already in a bed and I couldn't move anyway, but he decided that now I'm going to be in prison. I wasn't tortured physically, but I was tortured mentally. I would go in and out of consciousness, I guess, where I was aware or not aware, and the environment would change a little bit. And again, there's no people ever. I saw any people checking on me. It was not a real consciousness that I was experiencing at that point. But I remember one time I had woken up and he had gotten all these massively long steel rods. And at the end of the rod was very, very sharp points, like, you would throw a spear. And it was iron. And so it was all one piece. And it was all directions, all facing me, and with one of them at the very center right here. So sharp that I could not even move. So it was a emotional torment. Are you going to kill me? Are you going to take me? And it definitely intimidating and scary for me. Because those rods were real. And his presence was real, and it was scary. And he definitely was in control. At that point, I didn't identify him as a demon.
Okay, so I guess the big issue, and I hate to even say this, but there's no, nice way of saying this, but one of the themes that you'll kind of see, and this is to no fault of hers at all, it's just that, when you're in an abusive cycle, right? Then what can happen is you are more prone to submit. You're more prone to just take it, regardless of what it may be, right? Verbal, physical, mental, all of the above. And I think because of all the trauma that she endured, not just with the family, specifically the father, well, both, but but especially the father, which she's going to get into, and then the boyfriend, who obviously stabbed her. It's very easy, and obviously the God belief we heard acknowledged already. It's easy to see how she can kind of just fall right into this without kind of standing, without her kind of fighting it with her intention properly. They, like what she talks about, especially during the NDE that comes up, she kept saying, "Oh, I'm stuck. And of course, you have the coma medication as well playing a role with this. So not only is she severely injured and on death's doorstep, but she also is in a coma. And the coma experiences are usually way more intense, like we were talking about earlier. Like they're just on a different level. So let's keep going.
Just, he was there. And his friend didn't really have any interaction. Let's see. So there was the spears, and the darkness, I guess, went deeper. I guess you could say that, because I was no longer in the hospital in the bed. I was below. And when I become aware, I was in what I would describe best as like a huge dungeon / basement with openings and corridors and hallways. And it was massively huge and open. It was very open. It was just walls, but.
Okay, so what she just mentioned is really important. That is a data point in comas and in some hellish NDEs. It could be long hallways. It could be like an abandoned hospital situation that the hallways just go on forever. And she even brings up concrete, and that's something that I've seen pop up a lot, where it's like these endless hallways, and it's like concrete or stone or steel, something like that. And so it's interesting to hear her say this. So it's further confirmation of a certain, how do I put this? Like a certain aesthetic that is looked at or experienced during these types of cases.
All cement type, all one piece. So there was no a stair layer, stair layer. It was all one piece, all metal, or not metal, but like cement and big. And I was in this place in one section of it, and the guy who was there now stood up. And again, I'm not laying in a bed, I'm just there. And I'm still not mobile. I'm not trying to move, I'm just aware. And he's there, and he comes up to me, like up. He gets up, and his demon of him came out at this point. It didn't look like a person. I could see he was a demon. He had, at that point, changed to no hair. He was bald. He had a penis actually erected out the center of his head, and it was very intimidating. His hand still had the metal blade that he had offered me, all the cigarette with the blades coming out, but his right arm from the shoulder was not an arm, it was 3 swords. Ugh. And they were pliable, they can move, and they were sharp, and they were a part of him.
Okay, so clearly the ailment, should we say, on the head is a representation of the abuse she endured as a child. It's just messed up. Totally messed up. That this is the type of experience she would receive after all of this trauma.
At this point, he was naked, but he had, it was a very scary part. And he opened his mouth, and it was just black. It was very scary. And at this point, he came at me, and I decided we fought. It was a physical fight. It was wrestling. It was exhausting. His touch of him, I could not hurt him, but he could hurt me, but it was different because I was, obviously I won. I'm still here. He didn't hurt me that bad. But his skin was like soft and squishy. Like, I don't know. I could never apply that much force, but I did feel the fight. It was real, and it was very intense. So there was a lot of movement and energy and fear. At one point, I did grab his blades of swords that he had tried to wrap around me. And then at one point, I was my back up against his chest, and it was like an interlocking hold. And instead of still at that point where, what are you going to do when you're in a move where you're completely entrapped, I still wouldn't stop fighting. I pushed my feet into the ground and pushed back against him, and he sunk his teeth into the back of my head. And his teeth were also like razor claws in his mouth. It was metal, like his weapons on his arms, his teeth. And it sunk into the back of my brain, but I just wouldn't stop fighting. So I didn't care. I could feel it, and I just wasn't going to go without a fight. And at that point, he had become enraged because he had become blind. I don't know what happened, but he lost his sight, and he had let me go, and I still wouldn't stop fighting. I pushed my feet into the ground and pushed back against him, and he sunk his teeth into the back of my head. And his teeth were also like razor claws in his mouth. It was metal, like his weapons on his arms, his teeth.
So she's doing her part, and, well, the entity is breaking down.
And it sunk into the back of my brain, but
Ugh,
I just wouldn't stop fighting. I didn't even care. I could feel it, and I just wasn't going to go without a fight. And at that
right,
point,
so see, she's using her intention at this point, but she's surrounded in the illusion the entire time too. So you have to keep that in mind. She is starting to take control of the situation and let her intention be known, but perhaps not realizing how powerful she is because she's within the environment of this creepy ass demonic entity, and of course still in the Matrix.
he had become enraged because he had become blind. I don't know what happened, but he lost his sight, and he had let me go, and screaming and enraged around the room, just sightless. And I could just lay there, and time passed. I looked up where I was laying, and he had been gone. It was quiet now, and I could see above me like grates, kind of like you would see on a street. But when you're looking on a street, you're looking down at the grates. Well, imagine it way up there, and I'm looking, and the grates are above me, and there's all these, like a dozen small little dark black shadowy figures or souls just staring at me, just watching me like you would a fight. No, just watching. No one's going to help me. They weren't going to help me. I don't know if they could even come through the grate, but
They're watching the Loosh Fest, or probably trying to get in on it. Wait to maybe get in on that.
they definitely had a show. And I looked up at them watching me, and then I just turned my head, and I can just feel the weight of my turn. And I look, and there is, in that side of this area, the cement steps, massive step, massive step, massive step, massive step, just goes up. These steps went up.
Now, I don't remember exactly if this is the case, so correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe a few of you in the chat may remember. But in the Coma Hell story I did, I think his name was Mike. He's the one, if you haven't seen that one's, dude. Anyways, I believe he describes something like this as well. Like a staircase or something like he was looking up at and getting some sort of assistance. Now, this is the one who talked about, the machine, how he was fighting this machine, and And then, and I'm not even going to talk about it. Like the whole field with his child and everything, and all the crazy things that happen with that. I mean, that poor guy. I'll drop a link in the chat for y'all. But do any of you happen to remember that? Wasn't he kind of? I hope I'm not mixing it up. Was he going up a staircase kind of thing, and like it's almost like an exit type situation? I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't want to ramble because I'm not 100% sure on it. Maybe some of you might remember it. I don't know. Or I could be completely wrong. Might be thinking of another case.
And 1 foot at a time, this child walked down these steps. And I could see a little light above this stairwell or whatever, just a little bit. And it was a small blonde-haired boy, maybe 10-ish, 8 years old, wearing like soft white clothes, barefoot, walked down the step to the very bottom and came out a few steps and just looked at me. And I just knew he was going to help me. And he turned around and went right back up the steps. And I just waited. I just knew he was going to help me, so I just waited. And
so you notice how she said, I just knew this boy was going to help me. She just knew, so she waited. She knew there was a savior in the situation, right? There was something that was going to aid her in her situation at this given time during her experience. Mind you, she's already fought tooth and nail to get out of the grips of this demonic entity and stepping into her power. And well, what do you know? There's another being there. And granted, this is the one that, you know, you have duality represented, right? You have the good one stepping in to help her. The Matrix special. Keep distraction. Keep the belief inside the system so that, you know, the scam isn't revealed about the Matrix reincarnation soul trap.
then I got up myself and walked over to another part, like an edge, and it was like looking down over through like if I were up in a loft and I looked down below and I saw the continuation of this dungeon basement, and it was massive, and there were rooms and corridors. I mean, imagine like MC Etcher, is that guy, you know, with the stairwells. It wasn't, you know, that massive, but it was like, whoa. Below where I was on this corridor, I saw the demon, and he was on a metal cart, and he was cut in half from his torso.
Oh.
So there was no bottom half of him, and his eyes were gone, and it was just black, and his mouth was just a big black open. I mean, he was dead, I guess. If demons can die, his weapons were gone. His teeth, his hand, his arms, just gone. And so he just had that top torso of him. It was just, you know, he was wrapped in a clear orange bag, like a plastic bag that you, and at the top of it was, instead of the penis, it was the top of the bag was just orange shimmer up. And it was like, you know, and it was clear because I can see the orange, the clear orange, but I could see his body through it too. And he was laying on a cart, a metal cart, and this cart was being rolled down the corridor by some person. It looked like some old guy who was working there. And he was just slowly rolling away like, well, that's where he went. And I saw him go. And I turned away at that point back to where the main room that I had been in, and just laid with exhaustion, I guess, just waiting and wondering if this is, you know, it. And a loud, weird noise, like to me, it sounded like a helicopter. It was just really intense. And I just went up. I could feel myself go up. And I couldn't move. I couldn't think. I was just beyond exhausted.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, Electric Universe makes a great point. It says, Mark, when someone gets so low, a crutch is sometimes useful. Absolutely, I'm not at all um, talking down on her at all. I'm just pointing out the methods that how this place works, how duality was clearly presented. She went from the complete pits of hell to a savior to help her get out of there and helicopter her out of there essentially. So yeah, nothing at all against her and completely understandable. It's just showing uh, how it goes and how they can take advantage of us. That's all. Um, but that's kind of why everything kind of funnels back into the same concept of when we do die at the time of natural death, that non-interference is key. It's key. Not interacting with any of this stuff because that's what it's all about. It once we get distracted and engulfed in the sensory experience or in this part of our soul group, deceased loved ones, the light, the tunnel, or the light, and the Jesus and the God and all this and the love and everything like that. That's how we just kind of get derailed. So, for instance, like she was in this massive sensory overload experience in a hellish setting, and to no fault of her own, right? But it's just what would happen if, for instance, we, decided not to interact from the beginning, to cut it off, don't accept the cigarette, whatever the case may be. Don't interact with any of these entities and go our own way via our intention. She clearly used her powers to get out of the situation with her intention, but unfortunately fell right into the opposite side of the dualistic mechanisms. And here we are. Again, nothing personal at all to Alicia. I have the utmost respect for her and hope she finds peace in whatever way possible.
But I could feel the energy and the sound of it. It was loud and I just went up. So that was the end of the distressing part, I guess. Because at this point I went on like a spiritual journey, and I say spirit because I was moving as spirit or in spirit. So there's no form, no body. There was just my thoughts. I was at one point in an egg-shaped shell, and I had a mini window that if I stood on my tiptoes, I can kind of see out this window. And I had a little seat that I could sit on, and it was big enough where I could just take a step, turn around, sit back. That was it. And it was an egg-shaped white. So I looked out this window. I'm like traveling through space, literally seeing stars go by me. Of course, they were very far away. So it was dark and it was lonely, and I was really in there for forever. And I start wondering, am I really going to be in here for forever? And that's when that experience ended. And I found myself in the middle of a raging ocean with storms and clouds and thunder and lightning and rain and wind.
Yeah, why don't you just keep scaring the ever-living hell out of her?
And I was held suspended in the air above the ocean, unable to move with my arms out.
So we also have the water symbolism rolling on in as always. So it seems like an experience wouldn't be complete without the representation of water in some way, which, often represents the memory wipe. Leave these water, whatever, however you want to break it down. But not saying, she's got some pretty good recall. So who knows, right? But it's could be the symbolic version of, rebirth back into her body, or resurrection, I guess you could say.
And I was filled with fear. I was so afraid. And I couldn't move at all. I was frozen. I could see with my eyes. Down in the water in the storm is a figure swimming through the water made of water. This figure is like a man made of water. The water was just tiny curls, it was all together, but his form was a man. And he had curly water hair beard. It was all water. And I could make him out very distinctly in his water form. He was doing the butterfly stroke. And my vision in all of this, he was halfway out of the water in the middle of a butterfly stroke, ready to go back in the water. When you do a butterfly stroke, you swim in with your head. Anyway, your arms stay out.
So I'm curious what some of you think about this, because if I ever got a chance to talk to Alicia, I'd really, really like to get some more questions on this being and what her. Well, here, I don't want to ruin it.
In the middle of that stroke, he noticed me up in the air and looks at me, and I could see his eyes, even though he's far away. It was very detailed. And I could feel just his powers, just overwhelming. Whoa. And then all of that experience took a millisecond. But it was so impactful. I call it like all these things I saw literally scarred my brain, because these images, when you put a tattoo on your arm, you don't always feel the pain. It hurt when it went in, but you always have that color of the tattoo there for everyone to see. Well, no one could see my tattoo. It was in my brain, but those colors and those images were just a part of me. Even though they were the experience in the ocean was short, and the experience with the eggshell took forever, but still, it's just a picture. It's just a story. It's just a tattoo on your arm to be looked at and analyzed. And anyway, so that was one.
I like that analogy to the tattoo.
Yeah, there's scars. I mean, I have a lot of scars on my body from the surgeries and everything, but I have scars in my mind too. And I only have one tattoo. I don't like pain, but the tattoo reflects my NDE of truth coming out. We have to pull the truth out into life, even if it's from a story, even if it's from a tattoo, a picture, an idea.
Now, people are going to ask me, so let me ask you now, were you under any drug abuse at the time this happened, alcohol, or at the hospital, anything that could have made you have some kind of hallucination? Because people are going to ask me that.
Yeah. When I got stabbed, I hadn't eaten all day. It was the end of the day. The sun hadn't gone down yet. I just got off work. And he invited me over for a beer, and I drank one beer outside with him by the car, and we had a good conversation. It was calm, and he invited me in to our old apartment for another beer. I'm like, okay, I'll go in for another beer. I had finished that beer, and I was at the kitchen sink, and he leaned down and given me a kiss over the sink. And I just took the kiss. He was very tall. He's like 6'4", and I'm 5'6". He was very tall. And then he pulled away from the kiss and he said, "Why all this love, this hate?"
Talk about weird. And she's gonna talk about the whole thing with Poseidon. I mean, it's because it's funny, like when I was first listening to the account, I was like, damn, that sounds like Poseidon. And she gets into it, but why all the love? That's what he says before he stabs her. I mean, I really think the boyfriend was possessed by some sort of entity to do that.
6'4", and I'm 5'6". He was very tall. And then he pulled away from the kiss and he said, "Why all this love, this hate? Isn't it so much like that though?" And that's when he pulled my arms up and he dragged me into the living room. And with my arms up like that, I was stabbed in the back. His one hand held me and the other hand stabbed me.
He said,
And
why is all this love hate?
yeah, he's like, "What is this? Why this love, this hate?" And he pulled back from the kiss. There was no, "You're a jerk. No, you're a jerk." You know, we're fighting like that. It was just a snap. But that same snap and in that same moment of rage that he had, even though I was blessed to live, you ever watch the news? People die like this all the time, every day, from love, hate. We're not allowed to look at hate. We're not allowed to acknowledge our anger, our rage, what happened to us. No, we don't talk about that. We have to smile all the time. And we snap and we break and we make the news. I made the news. But the news wasn't happy. "Oh, she lived." No, it was, no, this bad thing happened. Anyway, so yeah, I was administered. I don't know what they gave me in the hospital. I was in a coma for 9 days. I believe my mother brought me out from the coma. I was in a void when I heard her voice and felt her grab my hand. And so I was like forever indebted to my mom, like deeply, because I felt like if she wouldn't have come up there and done that, I don't think I would have been able to find my way back.
Now, did your near-death experience happen while you were in the squad and arriving at the hospital, do you think?
No, my NDE, like my coma was only 9 days, but it really lasted a really long time.
Only 9 days.
Even when I woke up from my coma, the first night out of ICU, I went up to the 4th floor and I wasn't asleep. I had other visions, like my NDE continued, but I guess I was near death. I mean, I had massive infection. But this NDE experience just continued with me for days and days and days.
Okay.
And my experiences, and yes, I was hallucinating because especially when you come out of a coma, I don't know if people are aware of this, it's not fun. I was still fighting. Like I was fighting the demon. I was fighting those poor nurses because I wasn't aware, or maybe that was when I went into the coma because, you know, the coma was drug induced. Maybe I wouldn't stop fighting. But either way, it's hard when you're in the hospital and you're sick, you're on drugs, you hallucinate. So I did have problems hallucinating. And I talked to the nurses like, "Get me out of here."
So you know the difference, the NDEs and the hallucinations, it's clear to you.
Yeah, because the NDEs have those scarring effects. Hallucinations are like, man, I've done mushrooms. I've tripped on LSD, DMT, that's the big thing. People are trying to create their own NDE or hallucinations or experiences of their own
I hate
self.
that.
Well, it's still out there.
I hate that. I mean, I don't understand why Peggy would say something like that. You know, I mean, if someone wants to try and, I mean, when I heard her say that, I was like, what? I was like, if someone wants to go out and experience something like that, what's wrong with that? Now, would I recommend it? Not like ayahuasca or anything like that. I mean, but at the same time, I'm talking from my perspective. I've done my fair share of hallucinogenics, many of them, but at the same time, they're not for everybody. They really aren't. And you have to be in a certain mindset going into it. You have to prepare, plan accordingly, have someone that you know and trust, or at least has been vetted somehow through others especially if you're traveling abroad to partake in a ceremony. But many, and this is one of those data points, breakthrough trip reports that funnel into the soul trap. There are many accounts of white light or tunnel into white light experiences, seeing deceased loved ones, having a life review, and all sorts of shenanigans that link into and funnel into the same exact systems. And if that doesn't indicate to us that we're in a matrix, I don't know what does. At this point, there's over 20 different ones that I've talked about and growing. So if you want to replicate the experience, there's even we were just talking in the other day in the comments section, I think in the last video with sorry, I don't remember who was going with, but I think it was Robbie actually. Robbie was talking about this I forgot who was conducting it, but it was like you can replicate the white light NDE type experience through a course, and can't remember the name who did it, but anyways, Scott Taylor, I think it was. Anyways, you can replicate the experience through a perfectly sober and hypnagogic state, right? Now, is it going to work for everyone? Not necessarily, but these are things that I know others have experienced. So you don't need drugs to experience it, and I don't fault anyone for considering that option to go and investigate for themselves. Is that something I'm going to do? Hell no. No. I'll have nothing to do with exploring the white light. I mean, just on the off chance, just think about this. And I'm not trying to persuade anyone not to go and use the meditative track or try and do life reviews and experience the white light. Do I recommend it? No, but at the same time, I understand the curiosity while you're still in the meat suit. But just think about this. What if, for some weird, freaky reason, you did something like that, but also died at the same time? I mean, that would be the ultimate deception. Now, of course, the chances of that happening is very slim, but I sure as hell ain't gonna risk something like that. This is never gonna happen. We already know what happens. I mean, you can. Ugh, I don't know. Anyways, you get what I'm saying. Just give it some serious consideration. That's all I'm saying. I mean, again, the chances are so slim, but come on. Why hand it on a silver platter?
And I talked to the nurses like, get me out of here.
So you know the difference, the NDEs and the hallucinations. It's clear to you.
Yeah, because the NDEs have those scarring effects. Hallucinations are like, man, I've done mushrooms. I've tripped on LSD, DMT, that's the big thing. People are trying to create their own NDE or hallucinations or experiences of their own self.
I hate that.
Well, it's still out there and it's still an experience. Now you can have a bad trip, or you can become an addict, or you can just waste a whole bunch of your time and money when really, I mean, there's lots of different ways of trying to get to know yourself. Being truthful is the hardest.
Because it sounds like what you're saying is these hellish entities are out there. I mean, it was right there at sitting on your bed in the hospital. It's like they're lurking, and I would be concerned if you take some kind of hallucinogen that they could enter.
Yeah.
Not that yours was caused by that. I'm not saying that you were near death. I mean,
okay, so I'm sorry. Look, I think Patty's a sweet woman. She means well. She's got a great channel with many interviews. So shout out to NDE TV. So, uh, I find it interesting that, by taking this, you can welcome in the entities. But who's to say that the entities that others are dealing with, like we talk about here, just in the positive experiences, the love and light experiences, who is to say that they are not part of the mechanism of the matrix system? The deception. And in my opinion, they absolutely are. Because they play both ends of the spectrums. We saw just in this case how duality played itself out. She got the negative, then she got the positive, the savior mentality. I mean, all that, the savior figure, I guess you can say. And of course, it's her case is unique and it's a coma, so it's a little different. But textbook NDEs, you have all these belief systems. If belief systems shape the experience that someone's going to have, and every single second of every single day of every single year from birth to death is recorded, and it is, because that's what the life review shows, that everything is recorded, every single moment, and it's used in the life review. Okay, so first off, the playing field right then and there is uneven, right? If you have belief systems, everything's recorded, and you're just kind of going with the flow, not asking any questions, and then the matrix kind of swoops in at the time of natural death. Well, and you have deceased friends, deceased family. You have Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, God, Creator, Source, whatever you want to call it. Roll out the carpet of all the different possibilities, right? The pets. If you have all these situations presenting themselves, who is to say that those things, those entities, are who they say to be? Just because they are representing themselves as positive or loving or caring or on your side doesn't mean they are. It doesn't even mean they are who they claim to be. Like your deceased loved ones. That's a big one. Like your deceased pets. Or some sort of spiritual component, like God, Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, whoever. Right? So again, we're all kind of sitting here and saying, well, hey, what is what? If we just came from a system filled with atrocities, filled with trauma, like what we are seeing here today, endless traumas and atrocities, and you're going to hear some really interesting things mentioned coming up soon. I mean, I guess the point is who do you trust, right? Why would you blindly trust? It's just not in our best interest. And I'm not sitting here saying I have all the answers, because I absolutely do not. Nobody does. And anyone who claims to have the answers, even though there's some kind of spouting off some BS in the comment sections, claiming that this and that, and I'm not even going to say anything, but the point is we don't know. And if you're going through any video, whether it's my videos or Howdy or Wayne or and Julie and did I already say Dan? I think I did. Anyways, it's, if you're going through the comment sections and someone is making big claims, be careful. Anyone who's being honest with themselves will say that they do not know. And that's what this channel, that's what I say. I say, I don't have all the answers. I don't pretend to have all the answers. I think something is really rotten and it seems to point in that direction, but I'm not going to claim that I know where home is. I'm not going to claim that I know that I've been here and I've been there and I came from here and I came from there. I'm not going to make those claims. I've had some very formative experiences. I had an out-of-body experience last week, or actually this week, that I'll tell you about. It was 4 days ago. Anyways, the point is I don't know. Nobody knows. And anyone who kind of elevates themselves above that and pretends that they have all the answers or that they're special, be aware. Be extra discerning of what they claim. And just do what you need to do for yourself. It's okay to say you don't know. It's actually the best approach. And that's why I'm just saying, hey, non-interference, sovereignty, liberation, create your own realm, get the hell out of here in kind of the appropriate mindset so that you're not setting yourself up for any bullshit. That's all I'm saying. And if the love and the light and God and Jesus and Buddha, Muhammad, all this stuff is as advertised, or, you know, there is some source you need to go home to and this and that. If all that's the case, well, guess what? It can wait. It can wait. There's no need at all to rush through any of this. And why, oh, why, when someone passes, does the Matrix swoop in? Why is there like this whole, even sometimes a buildup in hospice, or it could be months before someone dies. It could be weeks, days, and like as things intensify, as the date of death comes closer. Why is the Matrix stepping in? Why is it so interested in making sure that you answer it and go along with the show as quickly as possible? And I'm sorry, I'm not gonna go and look, I'll call out bullshit, but you know, as far as the comment section goes, please, please, please use discernment. I rarely delete comments. Rarely. It has to be someone who's just acting like an ass, right? Who's just clearly a jerk, right? But, you know, if someone thinks they have all the answers, they're playing guru in the comment section, well, it is what it is, right? But use your discernment, please. There's a lot of bullshitters out there. Tons of them.
I understand that. But I'm just saying people that take the drugs to have an experience.
They're going to have a bad trip for sure. Also, you can become deluded in that, because that to me is not truth. A drug is
Exactly.
not truth. The truth is only the truth. It's raw. It hurts sometimes, but it's the only door that you can walk through to become a true experiencer. And an experiencers are there to guide or teach or steer. I mean, we have impact. I mean,
Experiencers are there to guide, teach, impact. I mean, that's kind of, you know, it's the Matrix marketing department narrative. Just saying. You know, it's like you have any individual go out, have an experience like an NDE, and again, to no fault of their own, I am not talking down to any experiencer. But when they come back and have had this amazing, formative, life-changing experience, it's understandable that they want to go out and share it. And it might start off slow with their friends and family, and then kind of eventually maybe it'll make it up on onto the internet like we see today. But in the end, the Matrix, in my opinion, is running interference and using experiencers as a conduit to exchange information so that less questions are asked. Less discernment is applied towards who and what these beings are.
a lot of times we don't want to. We want to stay in our house because being impactful is hard. But life isn't easy. Even if you had $1 million, it's not easy. So you're going to pick your hard. You're going to be
I know millionaires that have committed suicide. So
yeah, and you have to be truthful to yourself. So drugs don't give you that truthful to your experience self, because you can become high, like on crystal meth or marijuana or whatever your choice of drug is, and you become so exhilarately happy. You're like, oh my God, I know what love is. Actually, you know what slavery's like.
Boom.
Because
Here comes
that's
the truth
not
bombs.
pure, it's not real, and it's delusional. So yeah, there's definitely a difference from my experience because of the scars it left.
Wow.
And at that time, there was no NDE community. And I told the hospital therapist, because they pulled the breathing tube out of me, and I'm like, oh, I'm trying to tell these people, like, oh my God. And they're like, what the, I don't know. We need to get someone to talk to this. So this guy comes up, this older guy comes up, real dry, he had a suit on.
I can picture this.
He puts his chair in front of my bed and he sits down with his papers and clipboard, and I'm sitting here trying to tell him about demons and water gods and whatever else I saw. And I'm trying to talk as best I can, and I just can't stop. I'm just like, and all these I saw war out my window, at the hospital. I'm freaking out. And very simply, after me trying the best I can to talk to this therapist, he just tells me never talk about it again.
Never talk about it again.
Ever. Just
why would anybody silence anyone for anything? Therapists never talk about it. Oh,
move on with your life, because
Well, I mean, NDE TV doesn't like the soul trap narrative. Just saying.
felt like I was probably suffering from severe hallucinations and really taking my hallucinations to heart. So coming from him, he's like, whoa, you slow down, focus on, eating.
sounds like he didn't want to be bothered.
Well, it was definitely, he was out in 5 minutes after it took me what I could to even try to talk to him. And I didn't share. I was devastated. I was crushed. One, I didn't want to be back. I felt like a ghost for years. I wanted to go back home.
I felt like a ghost for years. I wanted to go back home. One of the most common things that pre-birth experiencers will say and NDEers will say is that they didn't want to come here. They didn't want to come back. Over and over and over again. If I had to guess, it's upwards of the 90 percentile. It could even, it could be approaching 95, 98, 99%. Who knows? But it's constantly brought up. If all these experiencers are saying the same thing, doesn't that explain something? Doesn't that throw up the red flags if you're listening? You're kind of on the fence about the soul trap being a real thing. If everything is based on this illusory reality and in this hierarchical system, then you have to ask yourself, if all these individuals don't want to come here or come back here if they have an NDE, then what the hell is going on? The problem is they're too far along in the process. This is something I've talked about a lot. I think can't be stated enough. And that's why non-interference comes into play. It's like when you come to natural death, do not interact with these things. Go your own way, do your own thing, and don't interact with anything. Just allow yourself the space and quote unquote time to do what you need to do for you. And then if I'm wrong, if we're all sitting here and just kind of shooting bullshit, then that's fine. I'd rather spread the message of non-interference, sovereignty, and liberation, and creating your own realm and doing what you need to do for yourself and be wrong than to just kind of repeat the cycle. Because if all these individuals don't want to come here or they don't want to come back, That, again, red flags should be going off in your head. Even if you're on the side of the love and light NDEs and that everything is advertising, God cares about you, God loves you, source is there, you got to merge a source, all these different things. If everything is advertised, it can wait. If it loves you unconditionally, if everything is about love, then it can wait. Clearly, it's not going to get upset with you, right? Just don't allow the conditioning of this realm to dictate your path in the afterlife. That's all. Just be careful. That's all I'm trying to say. Again, I'm not trying to say I have all the answers. I don't. Just trying to lay out the most logical path based on what we're dealing with. That's all.
Life hurt. Life was hard. Death was great. God didn't want me. I felt rejected. He did not want me.
Boom. How many times have we brought this one up, my friends? God did not want me. God rejected me. How many times have we run into this? Think about it. If this is some all-loving creator, source, God entity, right? That is just bending over backwards with just exploding love to make sure that you're taken care of. Why, oh why, would it send individuals back here under usually horrible conditions where they are beaten, abused, battered? They have, they need reconstructive surgery, months, if not years of PT, physical therapy. I mean, all these different types of situations. And then you're going to send them back with the thought that they got kicked out of heaven, that God didn't want them. And make no doubt about it, this is something that pops up all the time. All the time. Now, is it like in every case? No, but it's consistent. They feel like they got kicked out of heaven, that God didn't want them, this and that, and that they need to do this, they need to do that. And even then, when they say they need to do this or that, they don't even know. They don't even know what the hell it is. Really, the red flag should be going off everywhere. And I mean, if someone went through trauma like Alicia did, right? If someone went through trauma like Alicia, would this all-loving, amazing God, if you were some loving, caring God, would you treat her like this? Would you? And make her come back with the mindset that she wasn't welcome? After all of that, she deserves better. She deserves to know the truth about the deception that's going on here, as does everyone else. And if you think that's okay, well, I don't know what to say. It's just, in my opinion, enough is enough. Call this bullshit out for what it is. This system is one big fat deception. And it's designed in a way to take us away from us, from realizing that we are a true essence being. We are creator beings and capable of consenting, not consenting, using our intention to get our asses out of here at the time of natural death. All these things are possible. Anyways, I know I kind of ranted, but it's just like when I see these types of atrocities, as if it wasn't bad enough, she gets sent back here and has that mindset. That's what she comes back with. It absolutely disgusting. This poor true essence being just absolutely destroyed. I just, it breaks my heart. It really does. I have a lot of compassion and empathy for these types of cases, and they're very difficult to cover, but, yeah. All right, so gonna have to take a break, but we still have quite a bit more to go. You're gonna hear more about her background and the things that happen. I mean, there's still quite a bit more. So Before we go into break, I do want to thank T for your very kind and generous 10 gifts of memberships to the listeners tonight. That's very kind of you. Thank you so much. And everyone, welcome to the Last Timers Club who joined, courtesy of T. Appreciate that. And also want to thank AA for the very kind super chat earlier. And of course, UWU, who I mentioned earlier. So, all right, we'll be back here. Give me about 5-6 minutes. If the countdown clock kind of runs a little over, don't worry about it. But, well, let's just say like 5-6 minutes. We'll be back, okay? So, thank you so much. See you shortly. Okay, welcome back, everybody. So, just as a reminder, this channel is for educational purposes only, or entertainment purposes only, depending on the eyes of the law. So we're going to continue on with this Coma NDE. And, oh, before we get started, I just want to remind you, I do have a Truth in Gaming channel. It is, it was one of the the third backup channel that I had for here, and decided to make it a Truth in Gaming channel. So there's going to be some really interesting videos posted. I'm going to be going over some different games that cover various truth bombs, and some of it relates to Soul Trap and just our very existence and the functionality of the Earth Realm. I know gaming isn't for everyone, and I know some of you already subscribe kind of it, with the basis being that the channel would be a backup in case something should ever happen here. But I'm thinking of utilizing these channels. So right now I use the third one, so feel free to check that out. I will be also making it available on Odyssey and Rumble, but right now it's just on YouTube, and I still got to set up a bunch of things with the other platforms. But there's some videos posted there already. I'm doing some live streams. I'll probably do one tomorrow. I may even do one tonight after the stream if I'm up to it. But I do PC gaming, and I am hiring someone to help me maximize the quality output of the stream. As you can tell, even tonight's stream is kind of, even though it's streaming at 1080p, it's not looking so hot. But I hired someone, and I'm going to meet with them tomorrow and have them fix things. Talk about the worst. So the computer that I got, the hard drive fried. Like, it's one of those, I don't know what they call them, NVMe hard drives. They look like a RAM stick almost, versus like the old kind of clunky big hard drives that, in my opinion, were damn reliable. But anyways, they're supposed to work better for everything, right? But the damn thing failed on me. I lost everything. And so this is my little moment to complain and bitch. So if the streams look a little off, hopefully it's going to be resolved tomorrow. And I'd like to get back to the way things used to look and the way it was presented. It's just easier for everybody, or at least me. But yeah, I lost everything, and I brought it to a local shop, and he's like, "Oh yeah, your hard drive's fried." First, he made it sound like, "Oh, everything's fine. I just need to update this, update that, and blah blah blah." Anyways, he goes through it, and then of course I end up having to replace the hard drive, and it recovers barely any of my data. Some of it's there. He's like, "Oh well, we can send off this, your NVMe hard drive for repair, and they're usually pretty good at recovering it, but like you're looking at about $800 to $1,000 to recover the data." I'm like, I'll pass. I'll pass on that. But anyways, so yeah, it's kind of been a pain in the ass, but it is what it is, right? It's just kind of incredible that these new hard drives are put out. They're supposed to be better, faster, have more longevity, and well, let me just say, like, I've I think I had the last hard drive wipeout I've had was probably like 15, 16 years ago. I still have some externals and internals hanging around that I used, well over a decade ago, and they're still fine. But of course, the new technology, nothing is meant to last. Nothing. And so I'm just going to bitch about that a little bit, right? Everything that is created or made these days is designed to fail. Remember the days when you can have like an oven last like 15, 20, even 30 years? No, those days are over. Or, I mean, I don't use microwaves, but a microwave is a good example, right? I mean, microwave should last you freaking few decades. Now, what do you get? 5 years out of it? Like, can't stress this enough. Like, if you buy something high priced, you know, you're digging in your wallet for it, get the extended warranty. But one thing I did notice with the extended warranties is they're not like they used to be. Like, you used to be able to get like a good 5-year extended warranty for a decent price on almost anything. Now they're kind of limiting it to like 2 or 3 years. That should be a red flag, because these insurance companies know damn well that everything's made like shit. So it's not going to last. So anyways, that's my moment of complaining. I'll drop my Truth in Gaming channel, and there's a good chance I'm going to do a stream after this. I'm probably going to play Witcher, but there's also Quantum Break, which I'll likely play tomorrow, Sunday, or today, Sunday the 18th. It might be in the afternoon. Those streams can get a little long, but basically they're broken down into different acts, and it's about time travel, fragmented time travel, and there's some truth bombs that's come out of that. I also have some really, really interesting ones lined up. One is called Spiritfarer. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that game, but that's about helping humans or animals cross over into the afterlife. So that one will definitely be played on the channel probably within the next, I would say, 2 to 4 weeks. And there's a bunch of other ones too. So, I mean, I'm going to make a trailer video for the channel to kind of give you a heads up. But anyways, I don't want to drone on too much. But so that's kind of what's going on. I do have a Instagram, Twitter account where you can get notifications that about an hour before the stream starts. And if you want to get notifications, please select the bell to all. There's been kind of an uptick in people mentioning that they're not getting notifications, even though they sign up for them for the live stream. So, kind of interesting. And I have my theories about what's going on, but I'm not going to get into that. But anyways, just double check and see about that the bell is selected to all if you want to get notified when we're live. And same thing with the gaming channel if that's something you're interested in. And I also understand if you want to unsubscribe to that and you were initially subscribed for it to be a backup channel for here. But yeah, I have an email list too. Please consider signing up for that. That's like the only thing I control really when you boil it down. All these other platforms, I have zero control over anything, but the mailing list is something I do have, and I haven't sent one email out, and we're going on almost a year of having the email list, and I haven't sent anything out. But just in case something should happen, it's a good way for us to stay in touch. And I promise to never, ever, ever sell your personal data. Okay. And last thing is YouTube memberships and Odyssey memberships. If you're enjoying the channel and would like to get some extra content each month, as well as a backlog of previous member videos, we do a monthly members live stream the last Sunday of every month at around 7 or 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So the next one is going to be a week from, well, technically today, the 25th, June 25th, 2023. So feel free to swing by and support the channel if that's something you're inclined to do. Obviously, it's appreciated, but never expected. Here we go. Let's keep rolling. And thank you for your patience.
Nobody wants me. Anyway, my distress, I felt like a ghost for years. I wanted to go back home. Life hurt. Life was hard. Death was great. God didn't want me. I felt rejected. He did not want me. Nobody wants me. Anyway, my distress, because when I got out of the hospital, you know, I had been in the hospital so long, my apartment was gone. I'm independent. Yeah, my mom came out, but that was the extent of our relationship. And so I was homeless. I had nowhere to go. And I still had a bag in my back, draining infection.
Oh my
I was
goodness.
couch hopping and going to work because I still was working. My boss found me in the
Wow.
hospital when I
That
didn't show
is
up
just
to work.
awful.
Oh, it was bad. So then at that point, I got hooked on drugs. I was a streetwalker. I was homeless and wanted death. And
So just imagine you go through this brutal assault. You already, you have a place to live, you have your own apartment, and now you end up homeless as a streetwalker. Where's God in all that? When, I mean, she needed healing in this moment. She needed security and care. And where was the Matrix then? Nowhere to be seen. Really, that should speak volumes. It really should.
I ended up making the top of a Checker Auto Parts store, the roof up there, my safe haven to sleep at night. And I managed to stay safe off the streets and dealing with the people that I dealt with. I was never hurt. I was always allowed safe passage, but I was also always very close to God, and I never wronged anybody or ever would. And I took the Bible very literally, even though I didn't even start reading the Bible till almost 20 years after my NDE.
What were
And
you like before your NDE? What was your spiritual life like?
The same. I was a 10-year-old girl telling kids not to make fun of other kids on the playground because it's not nice. So it's weird.
Why do
But
you
I
think
felt-
you went to hell?
My life was so hard. I was severely neglected, abused, mistreated. My dad ended up 20 years in prison for what he did to me. I was a special case of a person who made it through parts of the system, but in other aspects failed. The systems utterly failed me because
Are you
my
going to
dad.
write a book?
Poor Alicia.
I should, but the best I can do is Facebook. There's really nothing that I could say that hasn't already been said. And every individual has free will. It's their choice. It's my choice. Yeah, I was born into what I call slavery.
Boom.
I felt like I was a sex slave as a child
Poor thing.
my whole life. Even when my dad went to prison,
Ugh.
I continued to be severely molested up until I ran away at 19 years old. So I was lived in this life my entire life, kind of like, I don't know what you can compare me to, because there's parts of the world that having a woman, live in the home starting early at young ages is normal.
Yeah, but it's not normal. It's not right. What you went through, Alicia, is just unfathomable. I empathize with you greatly. I really do. You didn't deserve anything that went on. And the fact that you, even after your father was arrested and thrown in prison for abuse that, it never ended, just not right. Just not right. Wrong on so many levels. And this should speak volumes, everybody. Should speak volumes that something's rotten, really rotten with this whole system that we find ourselves in. Because Alicia's case, unfortunately, is one of many. where you grew up, what family you were born into, what soul group you're involved with, who knows, right? But the point is you can end up in a situation like this again if you reincarnate. So why not take the path of non-interference, sovereignty, and liberation, create your own realm, get the hell out of here, and make a judgment call when you have all of your faculties together. If you don't have all your faculties together and you're making decisions based on what you're familiar with, which is the earth realm, which is the astral realm, which is the soul group and all the attachments and the material world and the various extensions of the matrix that are all linked together and playing off of the same goals, then the deck is stacked against you. That's, again, not to throw you into the victim mentality, but to make you aware that, hey, I can make the decision that I want to make for myself instead of just banking on faith and hope that everything's going to be okay and that everything that the system advertised is as it says it is. When it, in my opinion, it's clearly not. It's clearly not. It's one big fat massive deception. Just the flaws of the human body. So many like to say, oh, well, the human body, it's just a masterpiece. The human body, God was just, working his hardest to make sure that we all got the best body possible. Bullshit. Bullshit. The body is designed to fail. If you're lucky, you may get 30, 40 years. And that's if you're lucky. You may get 30, 40 years. But in reality, your first 20 years are probably like your most prime. Anyways, it's designed to fail. It's designed to break down. It's designed for suffering. And nobody can deny that. That's just a fact. Just a fact.
But it's still out there.
You mean your mother thought that was normal? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, my mom was definitely, did not help me in those situations and left me there. And it felt to me very intentional, even though in her mind it's not right. But I'm saying it's out there because it is out there.
So at 22, when this happened, was you just an angry individual?
Oh my God. I had left this home at 19. I got stabbed at 22. And I was like, this is all I'm ever going to know is hell. I'll never know. I didn't even start laughing in life until I was maybe 24, 25 years old after I had gotten off the streets.
And as you can kind of tell by watching Alicia's testimony, she uses smiling and laughter as a way to protect herself. She really does. You can see it. You can see it. And my heart goes out to her. And Alicia, again, if you happen to ever run across this, just know there are many out there who care. And you're always welcome to talk with me publicly or privately. So regardless of how you feel about what we're discussing today.
And when I did get off the streets, I started working. There was a part in my NDE that directly is relatable to my work. And if I can, I could share that part with you.
Uh-huh.
So what happened is in a spirit form, I was in a desert, and it was all dry and dirt. And I was just in this big, huge, vast desert as a spirit. And I was like, hey, being spirit's so awesome. You can go fast, you can be free and go anywhere. And there were mountains off in the distance and the sun was going down. And of course, when the sun set and you're not on Earth, the colors are what you hear about, indescribable. This was a rainbow sunset that I saw through the mountains of pure love, joy, energy. The first experience I felt of that heaven was through this vision I had.
Was this when you were over the water?
No, this was a whole nother place. I was in the desert.
Okay.
Yep,
I'm
there's a
sorry.
whole nother. Yep, there's a whole.
I'm
nother-
trouble placing it, like sequence where it was.
Yeah, I went to so many different places and saw
Okay.
so many things. And this was a desert scene, a desert place with mountains, and the sun was going down. And coming up from the mountains was a asphalt road. And I see way, I'm talking like, I can just like a bird, you can kind of see over there this little dot on the road, and it's a motorcycle. And I'm very intrigued with it. I'm like, oh my God, is that a dog? So instantly I make the trip from like however far away I was in spirit form to the mountain, to this road, to this motorcycle. And I'm right up in the face of this Springer Spaniel. And he's, well groomed. His ears are flapping in the wind. His tongue's hanging out. He's straight riding a motorcycle. And I'm like, this is joy. This is love. Because that's what I'm feeling. And as he's moving in these weird colors, because it's not like how you see me. It's like a blend of these colors in this movement, and being one and feeling real pure joy and love and contentment and peace and safe, oh my God. And of course, that was just like my other experiences, a split second. I could just, boom, I saw it and I was gone. I was just allowed to have that feeling of joy and that vision of the dog on the motorcycle. And how that directly impacts me as well, when I got out of the home, the way I made a life for myself and take care of myself was I went to trade school to be a dog groomer at 19. Well, I had just turned 19. So it was the end of my 18th year, turned 19, got my certificate like a month and a half later, got my first job. I'm out of here. See ya. And I hooked up with the first people I met at the job, which, they're my kind of people. They took me in and let me hang around. And that's where I met the people that, I eventually got stabbed by, but I'm not going to judge anybody, because
Did he go to prison?
He did. And his parents actually had a ton of money. This guy was on the streets, but
Okay, so wait till you hear this shit. So not only has she lived a life of absolute hell, an NDE of hell, a horrible boyfriend who stabs her. Well, wait till you hear what happens. Yeah, he went to jail, but...
Go to prison?
He did. And his parents actually had a ton of money. This guy was on the streets, but his family was rich. So they hired an attorney, and they did not want their son in jail. And I didn't either. When I got out of the hospital, I knew he was in jail, but I had to call him one night and leave a message on his voicemail just in case he got it, to let him know everything's going to be okay. You're loved. Like, it was just, what's this love-hate thing, right? And everything's going to be okay. And I just knew everything's going to be okay, even though it wasn't. I just, I was homeless, but everything's okay. I was on drugs, but everything's okay. Doesn't have to be perfect to be okay. But I just tried to give him this message like, hey, don't kill yourself. Don't, just move on, get your life. It's your life. Live it. It's okay. It's going to be okay. And I never had talked to him again. He got 5 years. He served his time. I never had any restitution. I just, my credit was shot. I lost my car, I lost my apartment.
Oh, so did you have your own apartment at that time, or was these people helping you, or why did
when I got stabbed, I did have my own place.
Okay.
When I had left the home at 19, I was homeless, and I was couch hopping with people, trying to stay away from this guy who I thought, he's probably gonna, he don't want me talking. Yeah, he don't want me talking, telling people what he's done, because he'll have the same.
No, he doesn't.
Prison's horrible, and I feel that's another slavery system. But
yeah,
what are we gonna do?
But still.
So yeah.
Okay, there's a difference between violent and non-violent offenders. Let's get real. This is truly what Dan and I talked about from Overwatch channel and overwatchproject.com, talked about how love can literally blind you. Literally. And this is a prime example of it. And to no fault of her own, I'm not judging her at all. I'm just pointing out that this is the extent that things can occur. And I'm going to tell you right now, as a youngin', I was guilty of this. I let a lot of abusive shit slide in relationships that I was in, and was too passive. But, you know, I was young and ignorant. So, you know, it happens.
But I went on to work after my NDE, and I became like this amazing, very talented groomer, like a whisperer.
Good for you.
I could
That's
really
great.
talk with dogs. I could really handle them. And I just
Love
became
it.
highly skilled. It drove me. Those visions really drove me to keep going. And to this day, now I'm independent. I can take care of myself on my own
That's
and
great.
make my own choices and not have to be in the gutters of the world. But when I'm out and about in my days, I can still see these people right in the same spot I was. Again, it's hard.
Do you still work with dogs like that?
Yeah, I'm self-employed and I work with dogs. That's my calling.
That's awesome.
And I think maybe, you know, if that's why I'm here for a second time around, then I'll continue to do that. So I fought very hard to continue my career.
Okay, so listen, you know, I've brought this up on the channel. I think the Matrix knows at least me well. It knows my weaknesses, and those things are dogs and music. You know, those are the things I connect with the most here in this realm. And what do you have with dogs? You have, and cats, right? I mean, most of the time, well, cats maybe not as much, but I mean, I've always been a dog. I hate saying dog owner because I try to never ever look at it that way. It's like, you know, they're just a companion, a friend inside the Matrix that I love and care for dearly. You know, a dog isn't going to betray you most of the time, right? Humanity can betray you. Music is an escape mechanism. It can help you in the best of times. It can help you in the worst of times. And there's something about it that connects at your core. But what is it? What is all this that we're talking about? It kind of boils down to the sensory experience. It really does. So just thought I'd throw that out there. I want to give a big shout out to Identify Me. It's good to see you, sister, and been thinking about you. I hope you're doing well. Been on my mind. Much love.
Even though everything's been against it, really, I mean, I was in another abusive relationship after that. So I ended up having another NDE. I think I was pregnant with my son when it happened, but I can't really remember it. Life is hard out there. It's tough. And I'm not the nicest person either. I don't think because we're spiritual, we have to be doormats. And I'm not very good at my words because I learned a different language than a lot of people learn. And I refuse to wear masks because of the way I grew up.
Love it.
If I'm sad, I'm going to be sad on my face. If I'm angry, I'm going to be angry. And the last thing I'm going to do is give you a fake smile. And people hate that. They want to live with a fake smile all day long. And I just can't anymore because I don't want to feel like I'm ignoring other hurts and sufferings.
Right.
Love it.
But at the same time, I'm always out of place, which is fine.
It's okay.
Since the NDE community has gotten a little smaller, I feel not so alone.
What do you mean NDE community got a little smaller?
Well, it's worldwide.
Oh, okay.
All over the world. You can go anywhere. In fact, you can even get on the bus in any town, and probably one person on that bus has had an NDE. They might not understand that that was an NDE or that was a spiritual experience. I've had so many experiences even before my NDE that I honestly I just said, I cannot deal with that. Nope.
Right.
But they still happen to us and we don't talk about it, but they're still a part of our lives. But we're so busy with that fake smile, trying to get the other persons to, talk good about it. Anyway, it's complicated. And I just dropped all that stuff. I said, y'all, I'm just out here, I can't fix everybody, and I still have a long way to go, but it's everyone's personal choice. So book or no book.
I'm sorry. Who do you think that 10-year-old boy was?
Oh my God. So I'm always trying to put people in my life to my NDE. And maybe that's why my life has been so hard, because I'll go down that dark road, that hard road. I do not care about money. I will stay.
There you go. Love her. Love it. See, like this is where it really picks up. Like you get her background, you get like her true essence, where she's like the rebellious inner side of her. I love it.
Committed, regardless of what people's opinions are, and they think, oh, you can do so much better than that. I'm like, you know what? I don't really. It doesn't matter how good we get. Let's just be okay with where we are. So I'm trying to always find faces to fit my story. And I'm like, oh my God. And what's happened is I'm blind. The NDE represents us. And I'm blind. I can't remember people. Everyone to me is either very, very familiar or not.
What do you mean when you say I'm blind?
Yeah, like I feel like view things differently than what other people, and some people see a face and they'll always remember that face or that person. I'll see that face and I'm not sure if I'm seeing it from where I'm at, who they are. I just know I'm familiar.
So you don't know, you have no clue like who that 10-year-old boy.
No. And if I ever saw him, because we just keep running into ourselves.
What about the man that was water? Any idea who that was?
Here we go.
If I'd call him anything, it'd be Poseidon.
I love it.
I mean, just Poseidon.
Poseidon. What's that?
Oh, like Zeus, like Greek mythology. He was a man made of water. I mean, that's like Aquaman. I do not know what to call him. He had a beard. I didn't see any, mermaid tails, but he was made of water.
Who do you think? Do you think someone created these visions, this experience for you, or do you think?
Okay, so I find it interesting that this question was brought up, right? I really do, from NDE TV, because the question's being put forth for her, but it's not necessarily reflective back on NDE TV, Peggy Robinson, right? The love and light narrative, and look, Peggy's been through a lot. I have a lot of empathy and compassion for her too. Like I know she lost children, and there's been a lot that went on with her, right? So you have to have an open heart for everybody listening, regardless of what you feel their positions are about this experience, right? But it's like, why isn't the love and light narrative questioned like that, right? Like, do you think that this was, essentially manufactured for you? And, how come it's only when it's on the negative side that these questions arise? Because I'm going to be honest, this question does not pop up enough. And if it does, why is it always in the context of negativity? And yeah, I mean, her case is horrendous. Like, she's been through utter hell. But at the same time, why on earth is Alicia's case, framed that way? Why does that question come up? How come the love and light narrative isn't put to the same test? Because it's positive. Because it's love and light. That's the only difference. So deception can only exist in a negative form with most of these individuals who look at these cases, right? And that's just a sad fact. I'm sorry. Deception cannot exist if it's love and light, but it can exist if it's a negative, hellish-like experience. Just saying. Why is it only one-sided here? Seriously.
It was real events. Do you think it was real events created for your benefit? What do you think?
I feel that the NDE represents me. So yeah, I created it. And I can't create that feeling of love and the feeling of fear that I had when I watched this man made of water swimming, because that's what was impactful, was those feelings: fear, love, the rage in the fight with the demon, the not giving up. So
do you feel the 10-year-old boy rescued you from hell when he come down the stairs and then that thing was dead and then you was up in the water? I mean, what do you make of that?
Well, like what we all do when we see things and we go back, what do? The first thing we do is talk about it. What do you think those demons were doing when they're looking at me? And after the fact, they'll be like, oh yeah, this happened. Let's go talk about it. So this child saw me. And even though I didn't see any action from him, he's just a witness. It's still out there. We can be even that impactful. I just knew I was going to be okay when I saw him, regardless if he was the one who did the action of saving me, because in the end, I was saved by, I don't know what it was. I was just moved. I was taken to a different place. So, yeah.
I'm just curious what you made of it all. What conclusions have you come to, if any, about what sense do you make of this? What was it? What was that,
Yeah, it really is just a wonderful story or mirage to share, to look at, a piece of art. My life story is, I'm just one person. But the way I think is different. My message to anybody from my NDE would just to be okay with who you are. You're not a great person. Okay. You're not a great person. You want to work on that? Okay, well then you need to want to work on that.
There you go.
You're okay being where you're at, which is kind of lower than what other people may think you need to be. All right, well then maybe you need to be okay with that.
That's right. Do you? I really love her message. I do. Regardless, not putting the system or the experience on a pedestal, like the guru status, and God knows they're out there. No pun intended, but they're out there.
Because being okay with hard things like being in hell for your whole entire life is hard, but we can't really fake it. We've got to face it first to get out.
That's good. I've never heard that before. Is that a saying in something, or you can't fake it, you have to face it, or you just come up with that? Because that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to put it on a t-shirt, I'll sport it. Because
I mean, really,
you have to.
don't fake it, face it. That's awesome.
Why did I spend my entire life growing up as a prisoner? Why didn't somebody help me? What lesson did I get out of that?
Because that's what the Matrix is designed for. It's designed for suffering. It's designed to make you feel low, down. And, in my opinion, there's no lengths that someone's suffering can go. It can get as bad as you can imagine and then some. And that's not to put everyone in the gutter and make anyone feel bad. It's just the truth of it. Just the very design of the human meat suit is flawed. And yet it's, revered as this amazing, wonderful, incredible thing to have when it's will piss people off. I mean, what can you do?
One, it's okay to turn the other cheek. We don't have to always hit back. Maybe, to be a victim, a true victim, you have to play the victim role. I was a victim. I wasn't trying to be a hero. I was trying to save my brother's lives, who were with me. And then what do we do after victimization? Do we grow? Do we continue to victimize ourselves? Well, we have all these choices. I was very suicidal as a child, very suicidal. So many times I almost took my life as a young child. And each time I just managed to walk through that somehow. And so, yeah, it's easy to choose what maybe I would have said, oh, that'd be easy out for me because I wouldn't have to endure the suffering anymore. But for what, And then God, no, he said, you can stay here. You've got more work to do. I don't want to do any work.
Was that said to
That's right. She doesn't want to do any work. And yet she's back here.
you by God that you could stay here? You have more work to do?
I did get told in my NDE in a very odd
Listen
way.
to this one.
It was actually the doctor, because I was worked on at a UMC. So there's students who worked on me, and my scar portrays that.
Oh,
Yeah, my scars are they're not even straight lines.
So see, the Matrix kind of portrayed this godlike communication through a rookie doctor. Really, that's the translation. I know it might not sound as polished or anything, but that's really what she's saying. Or rookie doctors.
And anyway, because they were there after I woke up too, and they were very newbies. And I recognized the doctor. I said, "Did you do this to me?" And he said, "Yes, I did." And I said, "Well, thank you for saving my life." And in my NDE, it was a dark area. And again, there was a light at the top you can kind of see. And I was sitting up on a bed, like a hospital bed, sitting up, even though I knew I'd been stabbed, but I was sitting there under this light. And the doctor who had worked on me was in front of me, like I was at a doctor visit. And I'm fine. I'm not dead. And he's not working on me. We're just sitting there and he's talking to me. And he's like, now, he had a beard too. He's a big kind of guy. And he said, "I'm going to bring you back, but you have to be good." And I'm thinking, I nod. And I'm thinking, I don't know if I can be good. And I'm thinking, like, can you know that? I'm thinking,
You can see her emotion here. Really, it's so the godly representative came through in the form of a rookie doctor. Just something to consider. Really think about that.
So anyway, guess what thoughts I had after my ND? Am I good? What is good? Are you good? Are we being good? Or what is, oh my God, if I'm not good, what's going to happen to me? Oh, well, I had a big,
So the fear, guilt, shame matrix rearing its ugly head.
huge argument with spirit. Because spirit was guiding me or wanting to guide me. And I don't want to, I was mad. I was, get away from me, spirit. You want me to go left? Fine, I'm going right. You don't like that? Was that not good enough for you, spirit? Well, oh well, let's see what happens. So I fought an argument for many years about what is good and who's calling the shots here. And really it got me to the road about being unconditionally kind to people who are different. Like, you know, I have a huge heart for the homeless. And a lot of people, they ignore the homeless. They just drive by them. Okay, you're going to give them a couple bucks? Great. Well, I know homelessness. And it's not easy. And sometimes it's by choice and sometimes it's not. Sometimes we're in extreme opposition with the system.
Wait to hear this.
So you sleep outside. Oh, you don't want to pay your bills? Oh, you don't want to behave accordingly? That's what you get.
What's that mean, opposition with the system? I'm just curious.
Oh, come on, Peggy. You know what that means.
Well, even though I was a victim in life through stabbing, they called that a victim of crime. It affected me so much because I lost my home and I lost my car. I became addicted to drugs.
Imagine growing up abused physically, sexually, then running into a boyfriend, living with them, having your own home. Remember, she had her own apartment or home, okay? Then getting stabbed, going through a hell like NDE, and losing that home. She lost the only sense of security that she had, ended up on the streets and addicted to drugs because of everything that she went through. And then on top of it, the boyfriend gets off with an easy sentence because the family's rich. Meanwhile, she's struggling tooth and nail to survive, living on the roof of some office or business. Come on. Does any of I mean, really, what is the threshold of insanity? What is the threshold? Does it exist? Or how many excuses can humanity or anyone here listening make? How many excuses can be made for this type of suffering and atrocities against just her? Just her. Let alone the child in China who's working in the Apple factory or the Nike shoe factory. Probably should shut my mouth, but you get what I'm saying. Can go off on this stuff. This is just one example of millions, if not billions, of atrocities that occur. And yet, you know, we're supposed to sit here and say, oh my God, that the human body is just a genetic masterpiece. It's amazing. It's so well thought out. God has thought of everything. You should be grateful that you're here. Come on. When does common sense kick in? Let's get real. I'm sorry. I know I'm going off a little bit tonight, but it's just like these types of cases just really irk me because it comes from a fiery passion of empathy and compassion for her, for what she went through, and how we see excuses made for the atrocities, the suffering. When does it end? I guess it's ended, right? She's still got a human meat suit, right? But I mean, at least she's found a profession that she can rely upon. She's built a business. She's doing okay for herself, has security, not relying on anyone to kind of manipulate her or support her so she can do her own thing. But at the end of the day, look at what she had to deal with just to get here. Just think about that. Is that right? Is that fair in any sense of the word? I mean, come on. Does this make sense? And again, you know, a lot of people who grow up, and I'm one of them, grow up with let's call them luxuries, plumbing, electricity, food on the table, a vehicle, all that stuff. Those are just the basic necessities. Roof over your head. Those are basics. And there are millions and multiple millions, if not billions, who don't even have that. So, before you go to sleep tonight, think about others. Think about others who are suffering out there. Think about the children, the men, the women in North Korea who have to deal with a propaganda system from birth filled with torture and famine and, no food, no medicine, no clean water. Think about those individuals. Disconnect yourself from the privilege, and that's what it is. Many of us grew up with privilege of modern day luxuries. Basics. That's what we consider it. Of electricity, food, shelter, water, clean water, plumbing, all that stuff. And just think for a minute for those who don't have that. And say to yourself, well, okay, imagine if I had to deal with that from the moment I was born to the moment I died. Or the moment I was born to halfway through my life, and then maybe things improved. If I complied with a corrupt system. Who knows what it would take to get the bare necessities. I don't know. Anyways, kind of ranting. I'm sorry. Let's go.
So I had become in extreme opposition of the system. I had no credit. I lived in cash. I worked every day, but it was cash. And so a lot of people live like that. A lot of people go to prison because they stab people or they do something like steal cars or whatever they're doing. They're enraged because nobody wants to really, like the EMTs who took me away. Well, they're not interested in me. They're not even talking about me. Look at me. I got stabbed in the back and they're talking about what show they watched earlier. That just made me so angry. Well, everybody feels that way. We're all mini gods. You go to Burger King, you get what you want. Except you really don't. You have to have good credit. You have to have a stable job. You have to have people talking good about you. You have to be aligned with the system for it to work that way. And if you're not, it takes a lot of work to get back into that system. I'm still with no credit, but I'm independent. I'm self-employed. And I work with skill that I developed my own. I didn't buy a bunch of products with a bunch of money and go out and sell it and make more money in that system. So there's just so many different ways of doing it out there. And unfortunately, a lot of people still choose to throw tantrums, steal, go against the system.
It seems to me, because I'm just thinking from when I worked at the maximum security women's prison, that they were determined, they is putting everybody in the same category there, but I know that's not correct, but a lot of them were determined to not go by the rules, and then they would get mad at the system because they didn't make parole.
Yeah. So
and I'm like, you stole some, if you have your tray and you're in a prison, you're an inmate, and you give someone your cupcake, that's a write-up. And I don't know how many times they would do something stupid like that before a parole hearing and then be mad that they had these strikes against them for rule violations. And then they're mad when have them in the counseling room because they didn't make their parole, but it was just a cupcake. And I said, if you can't go by the smallest of rules in here, how are you going to go by the big ones out there? And that's what they're looking at. And it's just the way life is. And we all got to go by the rules or we suffer the consequences. I don't care if it's a cupcake or it's a bag of money you stole from the bank.
Yes. So that right there is a huge touch of the glass shatter. Like, here's our society, nice and pretty, and there's a huge shatter in it, and there's cracks everywhere. It's not as pretty as we'd like. That's but right. Maybe we'll just look at it on this side where there's less cracks. We'll just ignore we'll just put a picture over it and just ignore it. Well,
that's exactly what happens. Exactly. Again, if you have the plumbing, you have food on your table, you have a roof over your head, you got clean water, you got a car, You get to school every day, you get to work every day. You know, just put up the facade around the exterior. Never mind the homeless individual who, can't afford their next meal or whatever the case may be, or is struggling with addiction. Yeah, fuck them, right? Throw them off to the side. They mean nothing. Remember, that could be you. Could be you in your next life if you decide to go along with the scam and continue to give your power away to the deceptive matrix reincarnation soul trap.
COVID now, and
There
the
we go.
new
Massive truth.
I guess I don't know what's going on with the world. The world's getting smaller. The NDE community is smaller. What's going on with the system? It's like, yeah, it's broken. I feel it's broken. My dad spent 20 years in prison. He got out.
It is broken.
Why did you have to tell on me? He asked me.
Can you believe that shit? Can you believe? Poor. Oh my God. I just want to give her a hug and just say, I am so sorry. Disconnect from this piece of garbage. Seriously. He is, Alicia, he abused you. And then he's asking, why did you have to rat me out? Are you kidding me? Trying to pull the guilt, shame, fear card on the daughter that he sexually abused? Are you kidding me?
I said, what? Why did you have to do what you did for? Excuse me?
Exactly.
So there's no fixing anything, but we're all supposed to take care of ourselves. We mask.
Stand tall, Alicia.
If you're into it, vaccinate. You take care of yourself. It's self-care. Do you go to the gym? Are you?
Just so you know, I'm sorry, but I just have to leave this message, especially for YouTube, that they are safe and effective. Safe and effective, and stop the transmission of you know what. So, end of the public service announcement. These are requirements that I have these days.
You overweight? Well, if you're overweight and you get COVID, and it's like, well.
And then we have fat shaming. You're going to die of COVID because you're fat. And you're vaccinated how many times and you still get sick and I don't,
So the world is shattered. And so, yeah, and it's up to us individually with, I guess, what is it called? Free will?
Yeah.
Do you want to be a victim? Then take the cupcake, because then you will be a victim. Do you want to get out? Then leave it alone and you can get out.
Yeah. I believe in standing up against rules when it's important and when it matters.
Well, yeah, but there's still a overarching push for believing in exterior authority figures outside of this matrix, let alone within this matrix, right? At least within the Earth matrix, let's say. But what about the astral realms, all this stuff? This blind belief, this blind faith that the afterlife is all just love and light, everything's all it's cracked up to be, and it's cool, just blindly trust. This is where our downfall is, my friends. And, of course, our attachments. It could, again, be, like I mentioned with me, it could be music. It could be dogs. It could be friends, family, soul group members, quote-unquote ascended masters, perceived ascended masters, all these different things. Everything related to the sensory experience. Everything is related to the sensory experience. Please Please, please remember that. It truly is that way. It's all about getting you hooked into it and at least falling for one portion of the scam. Because as long as you fall for one sensory addiction, then it doesn't matter about the rest because it's going to suck you in that way and pull you in and get you all mixed up so that you just blindly give away your consent.
You know, and that you have to be willing to suffer the consequences as a result. But to break the rules and then be shocked that you have to suffer the consequences, I think is another thing.
There's lots of levels of blindness, yeah. And how blind are we going to be, and how enraged are we going to be? What path are we going to take? You know. So yeah, it's complicated. It's so colorful though. Life is so colorful every day out there. I can't please everybody.
Right, me neither. So I appreciate you coming on, and I don't want to take up all your day.
Okay.
Thank you. You did a good job. You really did. You got an amazing story. And I like that you are one of these people that you don't understand it. You don't have the answers. Where some people, you know, they tell their NDE and say, well, that means this and this and this. And they make up all these new rules that we're all supposed to go by and believe in because of their NDE. I'm like, I don't think it works like that.
Okay, but you know, I'm sorry. I just have to say this, Peggy. I've watched your channel for a number of years. And I mean, again, I am not talking down to Peggy or anybody. I'm just saying that Peggy has her preconformed ideas, right? And it's based on her NDE and, of course, her life script prior, the loss of her twins. I mean, look, she's been through trauma, all right? Talking about Peggy of NDE TV on the right, okay? Look, she's been through a lot, and I empathize greatly with her. And I don't mean any ill will, but at the same time, you know, like her belief in God, creator, source, and, you know, judgment, and even though, you know, she'll talk about how it's self-judgment and this and that, but all of these things, throw the judgment thing aside, like, right? It's this belief in the higher power that has some sort of ruling over you. What if that's not true? What if something exterior to us is just deceiving the collective or just deceiving the individual? What if that's what's going on? Because in my opinion, that's what it seems like what's going on. I don't know if it's true, but that's what it seems to be. And there's a lot of evidence in support of it versus the other side where it's just like, hey, take me, God, take me, source, take me, creator. I am all yours. Do with it what you will. And again, I'm not trying to talk down to anybody. I'm just trying to say, here, look at the common sense thing. You came from the astral realm. You picked out your life with the aid of some other entities that you can't remember, with a life script that you most likely don't remember, or if you do remember, have very little recollection of. You come here, born into a human body that is inherently flawed. Inherently flawed. You go through life, and depending on, you know, where you landed, what soul group, what family unit you grew up into, you're going to deal with problems. And some will be worse than others. Some will be better. But at the end of the day, you still have the limited perception of the human meat suit and cognitive abilities that are extremely thwarted through the governor of this body that we all fell into. That should be a red flag. It really should. Just the insanity. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Just the insanity That is the meat suit. The flaws should speak volumes. We're almost ready to wrap things up, and I will be on the gaming channel, and I'm going to drop the link for anyone interested.
I mean,
when we go to an art gallery, I mean, now when you go to the bathroom, they tell you how to wash your hands, but you can't tell me how to interpret art. Okay. And life's art, life's a dance.
Did any of you learn to wash your hands as a child? Can we get a raise of hands? I just want to make sure. Perhaps we did miss that. I like how she brought that up.
and that's a good analogy too, because our NDEs are like art, and I see them personally, just myself, as God designed these experiences for us to learn from them what we need to learn and go forward in our lives. Whether if somebody has a hell experience, maybe they needed a little kick in the butt to change, or if somebody had, whatever experience, like for me, I lost my twins and I was told it was my time. And so when I was brought back, I had this humongous gratitude that I was given my life back when it was my time. And so that was me. That's what I needed to go forward, to better my life, was to live with this gratitude.
Poor Peggy. I mean, I have, again, like she says it, right? She says how this is what she needed to move forward. This is what she needed. Ask and you shall receive. The Matrix provides. You're looking for hope. You're looking for answers. You're looking for common sense to fill in the gaps of, in her case, why she lost her twins, right? And, it's just, it's really, really difficult. And Alicia's story is no different, right? I mean, she's trying to, we're beaten and abused. And again, I don't like to drop anything related to the victim mentality. I don't. But we have to talk turkey, right? We have to talk truth. And not just say, hey, well, this happened and it's a divine consequence, or this makes sense because of this. The explaining away, instead of looking at everything head first and using common sense and saying, hey, well, okay, the human body's flawed. I grew up into this psycho family, and I got to do this, got to do that, and my boyfriend stabs me and ends up with less jail time, and conveniently, he's a drifter, but somehow there's a millionaire family or a rich family behind him that is able to step in and take care of things. Meanwhile, he's a literal predator, a literal violent criminal who has injured someone, practically killed someone, and yet excuses or reasoning is applied to it. And again, I am not blaming Alicia, not blaming Peggy. I'm just saying these are the hoops that we have most likely jumped through for who knows how many lifetimes, when all we had to do was kind of say, hey, well, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't seem right. That's all. And just say, hey, instead of just blindly trusting when I leave here that, everything is as advertised, let me go my own way, do my own thing. Don't bother me. I'm going to be sovereign. I'm going to liberate myself. Non-interference. And just let me see what happens. That's all this channel talks about. That's it. This is the only thing I say. I don't pretend to have all the answers. All I say is just, hey, do your thing. but don't allow anything to interfere or mess with you or make you think that you have to view things a certain way, or that this is a solid foundation to back upon, and that it is the way things are, and blah 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 blah. If anything, this system is taught, at least to me, is that it doesn't want a sovereign mindset. It doesn't want us to stand firm in our footing as a sovereign essence being. It doesn't want it. So, anyways, we'll keep moving along. We're pretty close to wrapping things up, and then I'll be on the gaming channel playing Witcher 3.
That God gave me my life back to raise my kids. And because I was abused growing up too, and I was scared to death that my kids would be in the hands of my mother if I didn't return. And if they weren't with her, they would be with someone that I wouldn't be there as their mother to protect them, because I was very protective. My kids didn't stay with anyone else other than me, very rarely. Maybe my husband's mother briefly, and that was it. And so, we all have and I feel they're designed. And so that's everybody, and you are free. That's your experience to determine what it means to you and how it come about and why it was there. And we have the rest of our lives to ponder.
Well, I've actually had people recently, I was told that no, I wouldn't be hired by a certain person based off of what they viewed on my Facebook wall, my page, because I'm not there to get 100 likes. I'm like, hey, I can't remember stuff, so I'm going to look at this later. If I'm going to enjoy it, maybe you will. Oh, you don't like the things on my page? That's okay.
But you're a dog groomer, right? I mean, not to belittle that, but like, how is your spiritual life going to affect what you do with animals?
Well, that's a depiction, because that's like saying, well, I'm not going to hire you because you're Black, or you're not going to hire me because I'm spiritually different than you.
And there's always going to be idiots.
Well, there's judgment, and there's what's it called? Racism.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm a single white woman, and I guess I'm a minority. I'm also self-employed, so I don't depend on a man, which is kind of different for a lot of people. So anyway, I have a lot of flack. And
we all do, because everybody's a critic.
Anyway, I'm independent, so I could scream NDE all day. I've been stalking the NDE community for a couple of years now. No, and now.
Well, I'm married, but I tell you what, I'm independent. I'll bring my husband here, and he'll tell you, you don't mess with her.
Hey, how do you find one? I need some backup here. But anyway, no, I appreciate just helping me out here. I'd like to share my story. It's hard for me to communicate, and if it can help anyone out, great. And if it can piss anyone off and give them something to talk about, cool too.
Sure, we'll wake them all up.
Let me just say, like her, Alicia, your story doesn't piss me off at all. It's I just have a different view of what's going on here, and again, you're always welcome to come on and have a discussion, either publicly or privately, about I think based on a lot of what you said, you're waking up just like all of us have woken up and seen the truth of the ridiculousness that is this entire experience.
Anyway, give me something.
We're strong though. And sometimes I'll say, do you think what you are doing to me is going to tear me down? Because you have not seen what I've been through. And you think this is going to do it?
Actually, no, because I've had a lot of people tear me down. And that's why getting up is so important, because people will tear you down. People will
Don't stay down long.
Oh man, they just want to cut them daisies right off.
Yeah.
Well, they're going to grow back. So anyway.
And they're going to grow back stronger.
And more.
Yeah. You burn down a field, it always comes back greener and more beautiful.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks. We'll see you later.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, my friends, going to wrap things up. It's been fun, and thank you for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed this NDE slash Coma NDE, I guess you can say. And we'll see each other again next week sometime. And just as a reminder, the monthly members live stream will be June 25th at around 7:30 p.m. on YouTube and Odyssey. So perhaps I will see you over on the gaming channel. We'll be playing Witcher. We did see a truth bomb about lucid dreaming in the last stream, and also about blood sacrifice. I think the stream before that, at least with The Witcher, and Quantum Break will probably continue tomorrow or today. I'm sorry, Sunday the 18th. So feel free to swing by. I'm not sure how long I'll be gaming for tonight, but probably at least an hour. And take care of yourselves. Thank you again. T, thank you so much for the membership purchase, and everybody else who donated UWU and AA, and I appreciate you all and all the members out there and everyone watching. Thank you so much. Please consider hitting the like button on the way out, and if you found some value, maybe sharing this stream with like-minded individuals. So thank you again, and we'll see each other again soon. Take care of yourselves, okay? Don't work too hard this next coming week. Do what you got to do.